Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I hope you're all doing well. Can you believe it is almost March? Goodness gracious. Year's already starting to fly by. But hey, it's not a bad thing. It means we're going to be getting to the racetrack here pretty quick. Texas 2K is coming up. I was hoping to be in attendance. That's not going to happen. But I am getting both the Civic and one of my other cars, the Nissan, ready to do some racing this year. I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do with the Explorer. Possibility I'm going to go find a 2021 ST instead and start modding that, but it was a recent development, so we'll see how that works out. Anyway, today what we're going to talk about, as you probably guessed by the title, is tuning S2000s. This one in particular is going to be an F20C, so an AP1. We're going to go over what it did when it was NA. We recently retuned it with a customer supplied turbo kit. So we're going to go over all the basics just like we did with the Subaru, kind of see some of the ins and outs of the S2000. So let's get right to the data. So as we get to the dyno sheets, the red line where it did 203.38 is when the car was on a stock ECU. I don't think it had Flash Pro or K Pro. That was completely stock with whatever mods it had. It was obviously doing pretty good. It is a set up road course car. We installed an Infinity and then retuned it with that, and we're going to get into those numbers and some of the things that we ran into. But as you can see, the blue line smoothed out the power band a lot, moving the VTEC down from the stock 5800, really broadened the power band out. And we picked up a little bit of peak, just getting the air fuel where we wanted it and making it a little bit more finished, I guess is the word I would use, versus how it had shipped. But if we bring it out here, we can kind of see 12.3 air fuel out the top, down low. Obviously there's no boost, but 1250s, a little bit of a rich dip right there, it appears. But for the most part, lower 12s, 13s, about where you'd expect most NA Hondas to want to be. They don't actually like really, really lean. Doesn't seem to work out. But in this particular case, we were able to make some pretty good power. Now, if we switch to the Infinity software, I'm just going to go to the last run for that car. And we're going to talk about something that bit me in the behind after we put the turbo kit on it, is while I did check timing sync, I went off the crank pulley information that I had for a Series 2 and didn't double check it mechanically. So as you can see over here, I ended up with a number of 29 degrees out the top. That's probably 4 or 5 degrees too high. You're going to see what it did when we got it on the dyno with the turbo kit and some of the things I ran into. So it definitely is worth checking. You never know the condition of a crank pulley or the marks. Put it on TDC, on number 1 obviously. I usually use a 1/4 inch extension. That's something like a 12-inch extension, so 30 centimeter for the metric guys, to make sure that I'm as close to TDC as possible. In this particular case, I don't know if the pulley has shifted, it's marking different values, but regardless, we didn't really line up on any of the marks that were there as provided. So that's fine. We zeroed it out. We made sure everything was where it was supposed to be. Got that sorted on the turbo kit. So if you know anything about F20s, you would notice that number was probably a little higher. Flash Pro numbers will be 25, 26, usually maybe 27. This car does have coolant temp. It does have oil temp. So 170 degrees. That stayed very, very consistent even with the turbo. As you're going to see, the oil temp was a little bit lower just because we had low ambient air temp here in the Northwest, where this was 141 degrees. It was 130 something. I think I did get it to 139 once. When we look at injectors, it has 1050s. Barely using any of those, of course, because it's only 214 horse. And intake air temp, when we look for intake air temp, 101 degrees. So it was a warm day when we did this. Now we're going to switch over to the first attempt on the turbo kit, and we're going to start by looking at the dyno sheet. Then we're going to come back to the Infinity and look at what the knock control was doing. On the NA setup, we weren't quite as high tech on the knock control, but I will go over that real fast. I doubled the frequency. I left the integrator at 300 milliseconds. I did all my basic mods. This kilohertz was a little bit low. It's an 87 millimeter bore, so it should have actually been 1314, which I did do later. When we look at knock profile, though, even for that 29 degrees, really, really mellow, not doing much. Knock floor was set at 0.21. Okay, now let's switch to here in the last couple weeks with the turbo kit. If that content is something that you like, please consider giving me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. Definitely leave comments for positive, negative. Let me know where I can improve, what you guys want to see in the future. It just helps the channel and it helps get you the content that you want. If possibly you have a friend or a community group that can benefit from content like this, please consider sharing it with them, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you want to go. Lastly, if you want notified as new content is added, simply click on the bell icon and YouTube will do that for you. Thanks again, guys. Take care.